Common sense isn't gone. It just needs a comeback. Common Sense Superheroes with David and Greg.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the first part of Common Sense Superheroes, the first real episode. We had a little sports clip episode that we did, but this is the first real episode where you get the full grasp of what we're trying to communicate here, Greg. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you're trying to downplay our first little episode yesterday, but if anybody was listening, they should have made some money.
If you followed along and you bet with Greg down the line, you would have made some money. And I think we all could use a little bit of extra money. And all he did was use common sense. So
Yeah,
let's
2-0
recap the bets.
might have been beginner's luck, but we'll try again when I see something I like.
So we'll get into the Don Lemon craziness that's going on and show our true sides as far as how we fall politically. And I think it's just common sense. But anyways, we'll get to that. But like Greg said, we got to start out with some football because last night, the Indiana, how you say it? Hoosiers beat the U from Miami. And somebody had some bets on the line. And Greg, you want to go back on what you said?
We did.
Go back over.
The game script kind of played out pretty much like I thought. It was a close competitive game. I had a feeling Miami would keep it within the number of 7.5 or 8, wherever you could have got it. Having said that, though, the best play I liked was the Miami team total over 19.5. Barely got there, but 21 is always going to be more than 19.5 until they change that on us. But so we won that one, and then I didn't necessarily expect it to come down to the last play of the game or within 30 seconds of the final buzzer, but I had a feeling Carson was going to throw a pick.
Nick did
Mostly
in there.
because I knew he would be in a situation like that where he had to throw at the end of the game. And I've watched the guy for a couple of years. I know he can get rattled when the pressure's on, and I just had a feeling. So yeah, 2-0 to cap that game. It was a fun watch. It was a little bit of a slow start and a little monotonous at the beginning. Ultimately, I think I don't know that those were the two best teams all year long, but those were two quality teams that deserve to be playing for the title.
I mean, yes, obviously it worked out that way because it is what it is. It is I find it funny that Indiana's the first team to ever win after a bye and since the playoffs have started, and not only win, go all the way. So that's you got to give them even extra credit for that. But I'm also like, damn, do you even want to be one of the top 4 teams? I don't at this point, the way they're doing it.
I tend to think they're gonna look into that and make some adjustments. I mean, you're 1-7 now for the bye teams. That's not the spirit of the way it's supposed to be one of the top 4 seeds. I like, and I've talked to a good buddy of mine, and we've gone back and forth. I think instead of the bye, you make that first round game, the value is it's at home. Don't worry about the bye. Let's you have a couple of games at home before you get into the final 4 games, and then you can put them on the neutral sites and do all that. But yeah, obviously we lost to Ole Miss, and that's what ended our season. We beat them at home earlier, but that was a heck of a game too. They played great. Trinidad Chambers put on his cape and wasn't a common sense superhero. He just flat out turned into Superman.
Yeah.
But I still think that, playing that game on a neutral site was not an advantage, especially after sitting for a week while they were up and running.
I just don't think, I don't know, going through the whole season the way it played out, I would have never thought that it would have ended up being Indiana and Miami. And, you got to give Carson Beck credit. But like you said, he's going to throw that pick at a crucial time. And unfortunately, he did that. We could dissect the college football playoffs from here to eternity. But before we get to that, let's go over the game last night. I, being an old man that I am, and I get up super duper early, I made it to halftime. I ain't going to lie. That's about as good as I can do on these late games. And I was texting a group chat of mine, and I was like, when Indiana started turning it on towards the end of the second quarter, I was like, well, they're about to run away with it. It's over now. Well, of course, I was wrong. Miami fought back like the team they are.
Yeah, and I think even after having completed the season they did, I think some of us who profess to even know a little something about college football, I think we're still sliding Indiana a little bit and kind of playing this off as a fluke. I watched them this year. I watched almost everything they did in the playoffs. That is a very mature, very well coached team that doesn't make mistakes. And I think there were probably 3 or 4 teams this year that could have beat Indiana heads up, but that team would have had to have a good night and play darn near flawless football. It feels like a fluke, and I totally understand why. It's Indiana. They were the losingest program in the history of college until this year. But that, I think it was well-deserved. Like I said, we would have never predicted it. Even going into the playoffs, I wouldn't have predicted it. But having watched the way they just marched through the playoffs, took care of business, and handled what was in front of them every dadgum day, that team deserved that title no doubt.
Like I said, I haven't seen just the first half because I'm an old man. At first, Miami was bringing some pressure. They were bringing it around because they had that was what I was thinking, even though I don't know why I was thinking it because they've shown it to be true whole season. Indiana's offensive line stood out. I mean, I was like, at first, like I said, Miami studs, just freak athletes like they always do. And, the old saying, like, you want a guy on defense who ain't got no daddy. And it seems like they got a lot of fatherless kids on that line because they was showing out and getting to Fernando, even with a couple little targeting cheap shots there at the beginning.
I
But
think the playmaker, old Michael Irvin, might adopt some of the ones that are about to get drafted. Some of those fatherless kids will have a father soon.
yes, they will. And
He
by the
needs
way,
money for the habits.
kept it in check somewhat. I was shocked. Even at the end of the game, I thought he was gonna go crazy, but anyway, Indiana ended up they settled down, started running the ball. They got a few of those long runs at the first half, at the end of the first half, and boy, when they start running downhill, they put their head down. They'll hit somebody. They ain't scared. And
It's not a complicated scheme.
no, it's I mean, showed out, and Fernando, you gotta give the dude credit. At I did the play at the end where he was going to the end zone, not at the end of the first half, but the end of the game, basically.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the epitome of wanting it, and he showed
Mhm.
no fear and
Selling
went
out.
after it. He's selling out for it right there. It didn't matter if he's gonna get concussion, whatever. He's a la, John Elway when he did the old helicopter in, I think it was Cleveland, but that's wanting it right there, son.
It is, and I tell you, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and that might not surprise people, but I was not sold on the idea of the expanded playoffs and having this many teams. Man, I'm telling you, and part of it has gone to, some of the craziness in the world around us. I have really enjoyed college football probably more the last couple of years, just from a slate of you get down to the last 4 or 5 weeks, and because there's so many teams vying for playoff spots, there's so many games that matter. There's so much interest. So many more teams are still alive and playing for something. Man, I don't usually embrace change well, but I think it was a home run idea. I love the playoff idea. I think we need to make some tweaks. We need to get something where there's a little bit more of a true advantage for the top 4 seeds. Let's get a reward for having the best season. But man, it was a great year, and obviously, as a Georgia fan, it didn't end the way I wanted to. But I fell in love with this team. I fell in love watching them. We had a bunch of guys that are just easy to pull for, and in a day of the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff, it's not near as much fun to keep up with during the off season as it used to be. But on a Saturday afternoon with the dogs on TV, maybe a drink in my hand, I can't wait for 8 more months to get it going again.
It was hard for me to keep up with it when it was just old school recruiting and things like that. Now you gotta damn near have a PhD in recruiting and NIL and all that just to keep up with who's going where. I don't like I said, I was talking about the group chat that I'm on earlier with some guys in the neighborhood. There's guys on there that know what high schooler is getting recruited by this guy, where's he going, this and that. I'm like, damn, man, he's like middle school kids. I got a couple of them been like, "Hey, that boy in 8th grade, he's coming up. Kirby's already looking at him." I'm like, "What the I can't do that, but I appreciate the people that do." But the variety of teams that are stacked now, I love
Mhm.
it. You don't have to sit behind somebody at Alabama for 5 years. You can go
Nope.
play somewhere, and that guy can show out, and you have your Indianas, your teams that come up out of nowhere. That's to me, that's beneficial. As much as they say negative about some of the things going on, the beneficial part is anybody can beat anybody.
It
Vanderbilt.
it is, and just like anything else in our society, people are whining and complaining constantly, but you know what they're not doing? They're not turning it off. They're still watching it.
No, they surely are not, and I love it too, and it used to, I would find a game on I'd probably stick SEC, a couple ACC games on a Saturday. I'm not gonna invest a full all my time to a football game if I don't have any investment or if they're not one of the top teams, but now you almost have to because you don't know
Mhm.
who's gonna pop up out of nowhere, you know? Hell, I might even stay up and watch Hawaii at some point. Last year, I watched a lot of Colorado games, and that didn't help out any, but that's just because of Dion.
Well, David, we've talked about Indiana winning the national title, and obviously that was kind of an out of the blue surprise. But I have to admit, I think on 3 or 4 separate occasions this year, I uttered the phrase, "I think the good football team."
I know, listen, they
I
were.
think Vandy was actually a good football team,
A gritty quarterback, I love, and
and because he's named Diego, of course you love it.
Diego, whatever the hell his name is, Diego Pavio. I was gonna say Sanchez. I was thinking MMA fighters, but Diego Pavio, which I did love watch the whole him and Theo Vaughn and his mom and all that. That was entertaining. He got a little big for his britches when he's out there talking trash on Indiana and all that, but But I did like it. Is he gonna go pro? Is he gonna be any good? Most likely not. But what do I know? I thought Johnny Manziel was gonna be the next coming of Steve Young. So what the hell do I know?
It's hard to predict, my friend. Very hard.
I could never. I mean, when it comes to drafting and things like that, talking, we'll probably get into the NFL later in the week. When it comes to drafting and things like that, I usually go for the flashy pick and things like that. And that rarely, if ever, works out. It's when you get those big old hogs in the middle that you don't even know about. Those are the ones that really make an impact. You got a couple, obviously, like Drake London and things, but for the most part, you just got to get some horses in there.
That's it, brother. You got to build it from the inside out.
Although, as my friend will also in my group chat will tell you that the Falcons drafted a lot of offensive linemen for a lot of years and sucked a lot of years. So I don't know.
The Falcons have a unique ability to screw anything up.
It's impressive. It's impressive. I feel like that's me. If you want to compare, like you're talking about gambling, how I gamble, even fantasy football and all that, they basically call me the Falcons of fantasy football because no matter, I picked, who did I get? I had Joe Burrow, got hurt immediately. Tua Tagovailoa hurt immediately. The running back for the Giants, it was hot all those for that little bit. Picked them up. As soon as I picked them up, what happened? Hurt.
That dude almost lost
Aaron
his
Rodgers
foot.
hurt. I can't. In fact, a lot of them will ask me my opinions or who I would pick in a gambling and then go the other way. And I think my buddy Jeff's made about $700 off of me, I think, if he's going the other way. So,
well, next time I get a good feeling on a possible wager, I'm gonna get your input so I can factor that in before I release it for the followers.
But yesterday, like we was pointing out, 4 for 4, baby. Mine's just straight up who wins. But if you're listening, if you're betting along with the Common Sense Superhero podcast, you're winning, is all I'm saying.
No doubt.
You're winning. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back and get into this whole mess of Don Lemon and things like that. We're more than just a sports show. We're going to talk politics. We're going to talk life in general. And we're probably going to talk a little bit about Don Lemon, and stuff in Minneapolis is just mind-blowing. But we'll get back into that. I know. We'll be back. And we're back. And speaking of common sense, you would think it'd be common sense that of all places, a church, but even more so, a church in Minneapolis, that you wouldn't go in to try to protest people. Why do you say that? Because I don't know. Perhaps there was a shooting last year in a church that took people's lives, and you're going to bust up into a church, of all places, the sanctity of a church? Don Lemon and his crazy crew of people, which, he was just a, journalist covering it, even though there's basically video of him saying, hey, let's go in here, guys. So he went into a church in Minneapolis protesting because they said that they think the pastor is an ICE agent. And I don't give a damn if he is. You do not go in a church like that, protesting in that nature. I mean, what do you think, Greg? That's how I feel.
There's a lot of angles to approach this from. One, first and foremost to me is, and again, you and I have discussed this, you've known me half of my life. I understand the hypocrisy with which this comes, but my faith is the most important thing to me. And if that is not a sacred place that is off limits for that kind of garbage, then we're talking about a line in the sand that has been crossed and can't come back from. If this doesn't lead to prosecutions and punishments and jail time, like, this is a problem, because if we on our side are now told that we have to tolerate that in church while we're worshiping at our most sacred and most vulnerable times, if that is something we have to tolerate, I can tell you right now, I'm only speaking for myself, but I think there's a lot of folks that agree with me. That is not a nation that we are going to live in.
No, it's a rough one. And the irony of him possibly being charged with the KKK Act, which was, which was founded, I think, by Ulysses S. Grant. That's how far that daggum thing goes back. So him possibly getting charged for that. Should he get charged with that? Perhaps, but somebody should be charged with something, because like you said, if you don't, that's just like, if whatever you are okay with, you basically approve of. And if we're going to approve of that, then all bets are off. Like, what's next? Like, and try that in White County, Georgia. Roll up in a church with that group yelling stupidly, knowing that they was causing a scene. It was purposeful. They didn't give two shits about Renee Good and all that. They say that all they're doing is trying to bait Trump to send the federal troops in. And then when he does that, it makes Trump look bad. Even though it's the right thing to do, they're just trying to bait him because it looks bad politically for Trump. And they're using people's lives and people's spirituality as a way to do that. Is just disgusting to me. And I don't want to overreact or nothing, but I don't think you can overreact to this. Put the shoe on the other foot.
Yeah, I don't think you could overreact, David. I think, like you said, that is something where if that is to be tolerated in this incident, then that opens up a whole can of worms that I don't think any of us are willing to accept. And you mentioned that try that and small. Look, I know people that carry in church. I know a lot of people that carry in church. Sometimes I have been known to have my weapon on me in church. And I'm not saying somebody would have got shot, because Lord knows we don't want it to come to that. But had that been in my church,
They would
and
have.
I had my weapon on me, they would have walked out of the front door at gunpoint. And I would have walked out in handcuffs later, most likely. But that's the problem. They are allowed to continue to push us, and we're left with a binary choice. We tolerate it and it continues, or we finally stand up and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate that, but then we're the bad guy. It just doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, man, we're just getting further and further divided. I made a TikTok post yesterday. I don't see a way back from this at this point. And frankly, like I said, if there aren't arrests made, if there isn't some serious punishment for what happened yesterday in that church, I think we're lost, man. And I don't know how to get back. I mean, can you imagine if you and I went and protested in a mosque? How well would that have gone?
That's exactly right. I mean, so true, because it would have totally been, and I would have been the first to stand up and say, no, don't do that. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's shitty. But you don't hear that coming from the other side. Not enough, not loudly enough. All you hear is like, well, like Don Lemon was in there talking about, well, it's the First Amendment. No, that's not what the First Amendment is. Can't go in private property and protest like that. I am all for protest. Listen, it's a great thing. Whether I agree with what you're protesting or not, I love that we have the right to do it. But that is just a silly, stupid, dangerous way to protest, because like the aforementioned that I talked about earlier, White County, Georgia, which is where my in-laws live, in that little area. If you'd rolled up in there ain't no, you might have got shot. You would have got shot, plain and simple. And a lot of these churches around here, like Free Chapel up the road, they're security for a reason. And this, you just proved why there's security for it. So don't give me this. They're just complaining because, they're claiming there's an attack on Christians. Well, prove me otherwise, because it sure does seem like it. I don't see nobody going in mosque, like you said, doing things like that, because we respect it. So we're just asking for respect. But again, they're just trying to bait Trump. And if I know Trump, he's going to bite on everything you put out in front of him. But in this case, it's not necessarily biting. You're leaving them no choice. When you're doing things like this, there is no choice, because if we do allow it, it's going to constantly get ramped up, and it's going to lead to even more carnage and chaos, which is exactly what the other side seems to want. And they talked about the deportations were bad under Obama and all that. They said, oh, look, he did it, and nobody even said a word. Yeah, because we all agreed that deportations was the thing to do with all those people. Well, nobody on the right side complained. We're willing to work with both sides. That same is not extended to the right side.
There's a deeper part of that too, that the majority of the quote unquote deportations under Obama were classified as deportations, but those were folks that were either stopped at the border or detained shortly thereafter and sent back. That was not them ushered into our country freely, flown to whatever city they chose, given health care, given food, given cell phones, and then have local sanctuary cities tell them, we're going to protect you. And yeah, so now ICE has to go there. That's a little more challenging than just turning them around at the border. When you're having to go against local governments to enforce federal law, yeah, you might have a little skirmish every now and then.
Yeah, well, like you said, at the time when Obama was doing it, which I hate to keep saying Obama because everybody says, oh, they always keep bringing up Obama, but he was the deporter in chief. But at the time he was doing it, you didn't have sanctuary cities. You had people working with them. You didn't have red states going against it just because it was somebody from the Democratic Party. Whereas in this instance, you have people going against it just because it's Donald Trump, not necessarily because it's Republican. But you have sanctuary cities that aren't willing to work with it. End it today. Mayor, I can't even remember his damn name. But anyways, open it up. Say, hey, come get everybody. You won't do that. You won't let them go in jails. You won't let them do those things.
You may not remember this, but Obama even
threw
Bush under the bus and blamed him, saying it was Bush and all the corporate conservative types that wanted the cheap labor for their corporate taxpayers and their stockholders. None of us ever wanted that. I'm fine with some level of immigration, but at the end of the day, immigration without some sort of assimilation is just an invasion. And that's all this has been. They're just invading our country. And at the end of the day, if we're paying for stuff and they're getting stuff for free, that's a problem.
I get very tired of being told you don't care about people. You don't think those are good people. Okay. Yeah. There is great people that are here illegally. I understand that, but that does not make it right. And also Do I care about people? Do you care about the people that are actually trying to do the right thing and are going through the process and all that? Apparently you don't. You don't give a shit. You just let them pass. If we were in a lunch line and I'm sitting there waiting and people keep skipping and skipping, at some point I'm going to be like, well, damn this. And then not only that, the teacher comes up and says, hey, it's okay. They can skip. It's fine. Just let them go. No, the teacher should come up and be like, get your ass in the back of the line. But instead, I'm going to get tired and just be like, you know what? I'm getting my potato. I'm going to go up there and skip too. But that just brings more of this craziness that happens. More illegal immigration.
It's a very simplistic approach, but at the end of the day, to a large degree, mercy to the evil is punishment to the good.
Way to quote it. I love it. I don't know if it's a quote or a saying, but I freaking love it. And it just drives me crazy. But I hear over and over that dumbass that's yelling in those videos which I can't wait to figure out how to put clips in his videos, but talking about, you don't care about the Somali people. You don't care about that. Do you not care about the people trying to do the right thing? How many you got in your house? You want to yell at me about we don't care about them. How many are you taking care of? I'm paying my taxes at least. What are you doing about it? Other than sitting out here yelling at church folks with little kids being scared in the front row. It's the dumbest shit I ever seen.
Let me add a little bit of a common sense approach to this, since that's what we claim to be of all.
I know. I'm a little hot. Sorry.
If you just take a simplistic view of all this, the common sense look at all this, you can watch 95% of these videos. You got a left side and you got a right side. And if one side is absolutely going batshit crazy and insane and yelling and screaming and pitching a fit and wearing a dress and who knows what else, and the other side is calmly and collectively trying to stand their ground and state their position, the common sense says which side you want to be on.
If you had your son or daughter, because I had a guy on Facebook try to make it personal with me about the Renee Good thing, which we'll get into that another day too. But if you had your son or daughter and they were the ones that were sitting there as an ICE agent trying to do the right thing lawfully, or he was the person on the other side yelling like a damn fool and the ICE agents all times of the day acting like a damn hooligan, what do you want your kid to do? You want your kid to be, which one do you want to be? You're like, oh, I don't want him to be deporting people. It's doing a job. It's a legal job. If you want to change the damn law, don't go out to Minneapolis to some guy who's doing his job. Go to the damn Washington, D.C. and try to change the law. You had 4 effing years to change the law under Joe Biden if you wanted to, but you didn't have to because they just opened the damn doors and let everybody in. But go change it the right way. What you're doing now makes me go hard in the paint. I actually have a sympathetic heart for people that try to come in and be illegal and, want to do better themselves. But when I see fools act like that, that makes me go even harder in the paint. I'm like, damn it, get them all out. And I don't really feel that way because there is some good. They're great family people, but there are some bad. Let's get rid of it, start over, bring in everybody the right way, and we'll have it done the right way.
But what people don't take that to the what I think ultimately is the most important conclusion of all that is it has to be that way. And people aren't tying it together, but the pragmatic, the logical, just for sake of common sense existence, it has to be that way. We have to either enforce all of the laws and the rules or none of them. And it's really hard for those of us who are trying to abide by most of the laws to watch some of this and what's going on and what people are getting away with. And at that point, that's where you end up with anarchy. I mean, it's whether it's, half of the country supporting the other half who chooses not to work, half of the country supporting from an arms standpoint, a military, like at some point, if we're not all on the same team, let's just say we're not all on the same team.
I mean, I don't want to make it as simple as like raising kids, but back to the old, what you allow, you approve of. If I allow my kid on the computer all day or on the screen all day, then apparently I'm approving it. If I allow people just to come in willy-nilly and there's no rules about it, then I approve of it. And damn it, I don't approve of it. I'm sorry. And it's not a hateful way to think about things. It's just simple facts. There's a reason all these people that are, all these, I say Hollywood types, but all these people that are quick to be like, oh, you got to open it up. Okay. How come you got a big ass gate in front of your house? Okay. What's the deal with that? That time that Abbott from Texas sent, I think it was only like 50 people to like Martha's Vineyard. And what did they do? Called it a damn emergency. State emergency for 50 people. I'm like, bro, there's 50 people at the 7-Eleven across the border in Texas at any given moment. You want to talk about, that's the hypocrisy of it all. And that's a key word I'm going to use over and over, the hypocrisy, because it is ridiculous. Because you're quick to talk about they're not hurting anybody. Yeah, because they ain't in your neighborhood. What about the people that it is hurting?
Well, and that's the underlying point, all that is with that level of hypocrisy and with that just willingness to disregard facts, truth, and reality, how do you move forward? How do you talk through things when the other person says 2 + 2 = 3? And you just scratch your head and go, well, I can't work with that.
I know. And like I said, if you want to care about people, care about the people that are trying to do it the right way. And I understand it takes a long time. It is very hard to become a citizen the natural way, the regular way, the right way, rather, should I say. But it's going to take even longer when we're having to worry about getting people out first. The old, like, if you got a leak in your house, should I just keep fixing my floor or should I go fix the leak and then fix my floor? It's kind of the same scenario here. And unfortunately, we got to fix that leak. And that leak is coming out of the border through Texas and I don't know where all they come from. Canada may have a few. But another thing, while I'm on this rant about Canada, which I wasn't, but I've heard so many times you try to go to Canada, you got a DUI, you can't go through. They're very strict about who they let through to go to Canada. But they sure are quick with up there with Katy Perry and old Trudeau telling us to just allow people in. Oh, again, the hypocrisy. You know what, Katy Perry?
Their concern is they're trying to get all cozy with China now.
Oh, I know. That's what y'all still talk about the King Charles being in charge of. I don't want to hear it. But anyways, that is the first official episode of Common Sense Superheroes with David and Greg. I'll get the name right here sooner or later. Greg, what do you think, bud?
Hopefully we shared something that maybe gained somebody a little unique perspective, something maybe they hadn't thought of before. Hopefully we didn't piss everybody off. Maybe 1 or 2 people actually enjoyed the commentary and think we're not total lunatics. Hope my kids never see any of this.
Definitely. I think it's pretty good. I mean, I hope it get a little taste about what we're going to do. It's going to have sports. We didn't really get much about our personal lives or anything right now, but we will. But wanted to show you a little bit politically how we think. And of course, we got fiery, but I don't want it to. We're open to any discussion. If you look on my Facebook, I love going back and forth with people, even if they're trying to make me look stupid. I'm fine with it. But we're going to try to be open about how we feel politically and look at it in a loving heart, but also just a firm heart. You know, God would smite you. I mean, he would.
You go back to the Don Lemon thing. Don Lemon legitimately said yesterday, God does not judge. Don ain't reading the same Bible I'm reading.
Yeah, I mean, take a look through the first little bit. You might think a little differently of it.
I believe everything in the Bible is geared towards we are not supposed to judge because that is his role. He is the ultimate judge.
I love it. But that's a little taste about what we're going to be doing. Hope you follow along. Please subscribe so you get notifications when we pop up. If you like it, send me or Greg a message on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. X, I reckon. Let us know. Give us feedback. We're open to discussion. We'll talk about anything at this point. We're just trying to gain some traction. But I love it. I think it's great. Like I said, we'll go into a little bit more personal stuff next time. But it is a little taste of the first episode, Gregory. I appreciate you, buddy, as always. Anything else you want to add?
Friend, and God bless anyone that's listening to this.
Absolutely. Till next time, guys. See you later.